All right, everybody. So you want to grow a brand, right? Well,
Yeah.
today we're doing a deep dive on Byron Sharp's How Brands Grow.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, he is not afraid to shake things up in the marketing world.
Not at all.
He really challenges a lot of the conventional wisdom,
Yeah.
especially in chapter 2,
Yeah. Chapter two is great.
which is what we're looking at today.
It's foundational.
He's using all this data
Yeah.
to just totally debunk some of the things that people just take for granted in the marketing world.
It's really refreshing, actually,
Oh, yeah, totally.
because so much marketing is just hype.
Hmm.
And he just cuts straight through all of that
Yeah.
with data and evidence.
Like right off the bat, he goes after this idea that everyone's always looking for
Parts that.
that secret formula.
Oh, yeah, right?
Like, what's the
One weird trick.
the one weird trick
Yeah.
to just magically grow your brand overnight?
Everyone wants to believe that there's some silver bullet out there.
Totally.
But if there was,
if it were that easy,
yeah, we wouldn't have jobs.
like what are all these marketing people doing?
Exactly.
If it was just one little thing.
That's right.
But it is kind of refreshing
Oh, for sure.
to have someone come in and say
Yeah.
actually look at the data.
It's not magic.
It's not magic.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff that people are touting doesn't really hold up.
That's right.
So, it really kind of empowers you to be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a more data-driven approach.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really skeptical
We should be.
and really try to base my decisions on evidence.
Exactly. And you're more likely to get good results if you do that
Absolutely.
than if you're chasing magic bullets.
Totally. And, I think one of the most interesting things he talks about
Yeah.
is this difference between big brands and small brands.
Yeah.
Because, I think a lot of people think
Never difference.
if you ask someone on the street,
Yeah.
what's the difference between big brand and a small brand? I think a lot of people would say, oh, big brands, they have more loyal customers.
Right. They've got people hooked.
They've got their fans.
Yeah.
But Sharp's research shows that that's not necessarily true.
Right.
So I'm really curious, what is it that actually sets those bigger brands apart?
Well, it's not that they've got customers who are completely devoted to them,
Mhm.
buying it all the time.
Yeah.
It's simply that they have more customers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's more about just the sheer number of people buying it.
That's right. Yeah. Penetration is the marketing term.
Penetration.
Yeah. How many people are buying your brand?
Gotcha.
How widely it's penetrated into the market.
Okay, so instead of trying to get the sane people to buy twice as much,
Yeah,
you're trying to get twice as many people to buy it at least once.
exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And he gives some really interesting examples of this.
Like what?
Like if you think about washing detergent,
Okay.
like Persil's a big brand,
Yeah, it's like the big one.
leading brand. But if you look at people who buy a smaller brand like Surf,
Okay.
they're not buying detergent that much less often.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I would think that people who buy Persil, they're like Persil or bust.
You'd think so.
That's my detergent.
You'd think they'd be totally devoted.
Yeah.
But it turns out
Huh.
they're not buying it that much more often than the people who buy the smaller brands.
Interesting.
And it's the same with shampoo.
Okay.
Head & Shoulders, the market leader,
Mhm.
huge brand,
Huge.
doesn't have wildly more loyal customers than, say, a brand like Vocine.
Interesting.
They're just reaching way more people.
So it's really just about how many people are buying it.
That's right.
That really drives their market share.
That's right. Yeah, the number of buyers you've got is just crucial.
Wow.
And this is a pattern that Sharp calls the double jeopardy law.
Double jeopardy law. Okay, that sounds kind of scary.
It does sound a bit ominous.
What is that?
So it basically means smaller brands get hit twice. They have fewer buyers, and those buyers buy slightly less often.
Oh, so they're already starting behind.
That's a good way to put it.
And then they're kind of stuck there.
Yeah, it's like they're starting the race a few steps back,
Yeah.
and they're also a little bit slower.
Yeah.
It's harder for them to catch up.
That's really interesting. And that's not just true for, soap and shampoo.
No, it's not.
He's saying this is across the board.
Yeah, this is across all sorts of product categories.
It makes you wonder if it applies to other things too.
Like, what do you mean?
I don't know, like musicians or something.
Yeah.
Do bigger bands have way more devoted fans, or do they just reach a larger audience?
I think that's a great question, and it kind of gets to this idea of visibility,
Yeah.
which is a big part of Sharp's work.
Right.
Understanding these underlying patterns of consumer behavior.
Totally. And it makes you really rethink some of the kind of classic marketing advice.
What do you mean?
Like how many times have we heard people say, oh, if a brand just finds like a clever new use for their product.
Oh, yeah, like baking soda.
Yeah.
All right.
Like Arm & Hammer telling you to put your baking soda in the fridge.
Yeah.
Or McDonald's starting the breakfast menu.
Right. They're classic examples.
But in reality, it's got to be more complicated than that, right?
It is. Yeah, it's a nice idea.
Like, just tell people to use your product in a different way, and suddenly you'll have massive growth.
Yeah. The new use myth.
Yeah.
It's very tempting to think, oh, if we could just find one more use for this product, we'd be set.
Yeah.
But it's rarely that simple.
Right. Yeah, there's got to be more to it than that, right?
Yeah. Changing people's habits is really hard.
Yeah.
Like you think about something like brushing your teeth.
Okay.
Everyone tells you got to do it twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how many people actually do
Totally.
old habits die hard, right?
For sure.
So, even if it makes sense, like, yeah, I should use baking soda in my fridge.
Right.
Or I should use Axe as body spray. People have these ideas about what those products are for.
Totally. And they're not going to change their mind just because you tell them to.
Exactly. It takes more than that.
Yeah. So if I see baking soda, I'm thinking cookies.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking...
You're not thinking fridge freshener.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about building those mental associations, and that's hard.
Yeah.
Especially for brands that don't have millions of dollars to throw around.
Right. You can't just like snap your fingers and suddenly everyone's thinking about your product in a new way.
Exactly. And advertising can help.
Sure.
But it's better at reminding us of things we already know.
Right.
Not necessarily teaching us something completely new.
So like I might see an ad for baking soda.
Yeah.
And be like, oh yeah, I should buy some of that.
Right.
But I'm not going to be like, oh, I should put it in my fridge.
Yeah, it's reminding you that baking soda exists. It's not necessarily changing how you think about it.
Right.
So yeah, for smaller brands especially,
Yeah.
trying to find that new use case is probably not
the best strategy.
It's risky.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work for maybe not a lot of payoff.
Instead of trying to, change how people think about your product.
Yeah.
You said we should be focusing on this idea of penetration.
Right. Yeah, it goes back to that wider net idea.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't marketing experts,
Yeah.
what does that actually mean?
Penetration just means acquiring new customers.
Right.
So instead of trying to get your existing customers to buy more, you're trying to get more people to buy it at all.
Okay.
And there's actually a lot of data to support this.
Really? Like what?
So there was this big study done by Lotus,
Okay.
and they looked at all these different marketing strategies and how they actually impacted sales.
Yeah.
And the only campaigns that they found that consistently led to significant and long-term growth
Okay.
were those focused on penetration.
Interesting.
So getting those new customers in the door.
Wow.
That seems to be the key.
More than getting the same people to just buy more often.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this isn't just some obscure study either.
Okay.
The IPA Effectiveness Awards, which, those are the awards that recognize.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
Yeah, the best marketing in the world. They found that penetration-focused campaigns were twice as likely to be big winners
Wow.
compared to loyalty campaigns.
Wow. So like that old saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Right.
Maybe not so much in marketing.
Maybe not.
You're better off trying to get those new birds.
Yeah, exactly. And Sharp actually uses this analogy of swimming downstream.
Oh, okay. I like that.
It's kind of nice imagery.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting against the current,
Mm-hmm.
which is what a lot of these other strategies feel like.
Right, like swimming upstream.
Exactly. You're working harder, but you're not getting anywhere.
They're exhausted.
Yeah.
You're not making any progress.
So yeah, it's about working with the natural flow of consumer behavior.
Which is, people like to try new things.
Exactly. Variety seeking is a big part of it.
Okay, so if we're trying to reach new customers, what about this idea of cross-selling?
Yeah.
Like, we already have all these customers. Can't we just sell them more stuff?
That seems so easy.
Yeah. And what about those brands that are like really focused on a niche?
Right.
They always seem to have those loyal customers.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah. Everyone's like,
Whoa.
oh, we need to be more like that.
Exactly. Find your tribe and sell to them.
But it's got to be more complicated than that, right?
It is.
Yeah. It does seem like cross-selling would be easy.
You'd think so.
You already have the customers.
Yeah, just get them to buy more.
But Sharp's research actually kind of pokes some holes in that.
It does.
What's he saying?
So it turns out it's not as simple as just offering those products.
Oh, really?
Like you would think that would be enough.
Yeah.
Just give people the option to buy more.
Especially if you're doing things like loyalty programs or,
Personalized recommendations.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you look at the data,
Okay.
there's not actually that much difference in cross-selling success.
Between like a brand that's really trying to do it
Yeah.
and a brand that's just like, Yeah, buy our other stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you think about something like insurance
Okay.
or banking.
Yeah,
Most people, they're not using like 5 different insurance products.
that's true.
They've got their car insurance and their house insurance.
They probably got it all from the same place, to be honest.
They probably did, yeah, for the sake of convenience, but they're not necessarily buying
Yeah,
life insurance and all this other stuff.
that makes sense.
And it's not like some brands are way better at getting people to do that.
So even if I'm like really loyal to a particular bank,
Yeah.
they can't really convince me to get all my financial products from them.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that comes up in Sharpe's research again and again.
Okay.
It's not as simple as we think.
The things that seem like...
Yeah, the intuitive ideas
Yeah.
often don't hold up.
So what about niche brands?
Yeah.
Because you hear all the time now, like, oh, find your niche. Really focus on this core group of customers.
Your tribe,
Yeah.
the super fans.
And it works for some brands, but is that really like a sustainable strategy?
Well, the thing about niche brands is often
Yeah.
niche just means small.
Okay.
And we already talked about the double jeopardy law.
Right. They're starting behind.
Exactly. So it's not that they have these like super loyal customers.
It's just they have fewer customers in general.
They've got fewer customers.
But those customers aren't necessarily any more loyal than
Exactly.
the customers of like a bigger brand.
Yeah, it's just about the numbers.
So I guess like those articles you read about, this is the secret to brand loyalty.
Find your niche.
Maybe they're not telling the whole story.
It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's never that easy, is it?
It's never that easy, no. But that's why we look at the research.
Data over dogma.
Exactly. We got to test these assumptions.
Okay, so one last thing I want to touch on.
Yeah.
What about those like really loyal, high-spending customers?
Oh, the heavy buyers.
Yeah, like the ones that are just like constantly buying your product.
You got to love them.
Should we just be like showering them with love?
It's tempting, right?
And,
Because they're the ones who are spending the money.
yeah.
But Sharpe actually calls this the heavy buyer fallacy.
Okay.
Just because someone spends a lot now
Yeah.
doesn't mean they have this huge growth potential.
Right. They might just be maxed out.
They might be buying as much as they ever will.
Like if you think about someone who's on their phone like all day,
Yeah.
are they really going to double their screen time?
Probably not.
They're already there.
They're tapped out.
So it's really about looking at
Potential,
the potential.
not just past behavior.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and there's even been research showing that customer tenure,
So like how long someone's been a customer
how long they've been with you isn't actually that reliable a predictor
of like their lifetime value.
of how much they'll spend in the long run.
Wow. This has been fascinating.
It has been fun.
So many things to think about.
Lots of food for thought.
If someone's listening to this and they're trying to kind of sum up
Yeah.
all these different ideas from Byron Sharpe,
Yeah.
what would be like the one thing that you would want them to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is to focus on reaching more customers.
Okay.
It's about broadening your reach,
Okay.
not just deepening your relationship with the few.
Interesting.
It's not as glamorous.
Right, because everyone wants to have that like super loyal fan base.
The cult following,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily how you grow a brand.
It's more about just being more people's go-to choice.
Exactly.
Even if they sometimes buy other brands.
It's about being in the consideration set,
Yeah.
being the brand that people think of
Interesting.
when they need something.
It's a very different way of thinking about brand building.
It really is.
So for everyone listening out there, how do these insights from Sharpe's work
Yeah,
change the way you think about the brands you interact with?
that's a good question.
Or even like your own career choices if you're in the marketing world?
Yeah, are you chasing the wrong metrics?
That's a great question.
Are you focusing on the wrong things?
This is awesome. This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we could talk about this for another hour.
Oh, easily. There's so much more to unpack.
But we'll leave it there for today.
Sounds good.
For all of you listening, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
What really resonated with you?
What surprised you?
What questions are you still pondering?
Let us know.
Until next time, happy learning.